Today is Veterans Day, when we honor the veterans and victims of war. Would all those who are in the room who are veterans please stand? Thank you for your service to our country.
Whether fighting in war or preserving the peace, America's veterans keep the promise of democracy, yet democracy does not always keep its promise to its veterans. Many of them are in distress. Tragically, it's reported that we lose 20 veterans every day to suicide. According to the Census Bureau, there are nearly 22 million Americans living today. Nearly 40,000 of them are there, and homeless, 6,000 in Los Angeles alone. Just a few years ago, the ACLU of Southern California won a historic settlement against the Veterans Administration. The VA had taken land in Westwood that was specifically deeded to veterans for housing and instead leased it to private businesses for shops and tennis courts. The ACLU got it back.
And now the ACLU is taking the lead in another battle for veterans' rights, the rights of immigrants who serve in our military. Watch this video to see what we mean.
Well, I like being in the Army because it fit me.
I joined the Marine Corps because I really wanted to fight for the country. I wanted to be a soldier and, commando.
I wanted to join the military, one, to get out of my neighborhood. It was very violent, racial, a lot of drugs and alcohol. And I wanted to get away from that.
I love the Marines. I felt like I was part of something, and I like that. I like that a lot. It gave me a structure. It gave me a place in the country.
When all this happened, it was a shock because I always thought I was an American.
Getting deported was a little surprising. My military background seemed to have been ignored.
I thought that was a very rare case. I figured, people don't get deported if you're a veteran. You don't do that. I realized that there are hundreds of veterans all over the world, and a lot of them are homeless, living in very destitute situation and not being able to visit the country that they love, that we love.
When they discharged me and people told me that ICE is coming for me while I was still in the military, that was like the first time I think that I felt like I wasn't valued. I actually did not know anything about ACLU, but you guys literally saved me from hell. You got me from hell and then put me back on earth. It changes someone,
I'm going home, and I'm pretty happy about that.
I've been all over the world. I don't think the United States is the best country in the world. I know the United States is the best country in the world. And I've seen the freedoms the Americans enjoy. And it's something worth fighting for. It's something worth going back for.
leave no one behind. That's the creed you're taught and live by in the military. Any soldier or Marine will tell you of the sacrifices they would make for their fellow soldier or Marine. White, black, brown, rich, poor, citizen or non-citizen, you have each other's back.
And that's why the deportation of our veterans, those longtime U.S. residents who volunteered to serve the country, is so offensive. They made the greatest sacrifices out of commitment to the country, yet when they return home, we not only leave them behind, we boot them out. Every day, immigration authorities detain and deport U.S. veterans despite their honorable service. They're only allowed to return to U.S. soil to be buried in it in a casket.
3 years ago, Hector Barajas, who runs a shelter and advocacy center for deported veterans in Tijuana, asked the ACLU for help to bring the veterans home. Most were lifelong permanent residents of the United States who were told by the military, incorrectly, that their service automatically made them U.S. citizens. The ACLU took on the cause of dozens of deported veterans, and through their legal work, veterans Hector Barajas and Daniel Torres are citizens. Marco Chavez now has his green card back and has moved to Iowa to reunite with his children. Daniel and Hector are with us tonight. Gentlemen, would you please stand so we can welcome you home?
This assault on our veterans is bad enough, but it gets worse. The Trump administration is now seeking to ban non-citizens from serving in the military, reversing U.S. policy dating back to the founding of the Republic. We have sued the administration over that xenophobic policy. And we also took on the case of Specialist Ye Ji-si, whom the government refused to naturalize and whose abrupt discharge left her vulnerable to deportation. We won her case too, and she was recently sworn in as a U.S. citizen. Specialist C, would you please stand?
I just want to say I spoke to Hector earlier, and he says now he can go back and forth across the border because he's still doing that work in Tijuana. This is just one of the many ongoing efforts by the ACLU of Southern California and its cooperating attorneys to ensure that America keeps its promises in the Bill of Rights.